Welcome back to Season 4 of Comic Book Nation, your one-stop spot for all things geek culture and the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and I'm back in the studio with my co-host, Matthew Aguilar.
What up, what up?
And we almost had a trifecta today, guys. We almost had everybody back outside, but unfortunately, the vid is still lurking out here, guys, even though it's summer. Apparently, we're making better and better strains, and so we can't even relax in summer. So while she is still okay for now, Janelle Wheeler had to kind of stick back at home because she's had a close bump, possibly with COVID, and we're wishing you all the best, Janelle. So far, so good, hopefully, over there.
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. I'm so jealous I'm not in the studio, honestly.
Yeah, it's a crazy day here in Nashville. It is CMA Fest.
Yeah,
and in the heart of that big festival is, of course, us, Comic Book Nation, the centerpiece of this whole thing, right? So as we storm CMA Fest...
We're like Nelly and Florida Georgia Line. We're like bringing some like hip-hop to this. Oh, look at that.
There you go, and there you have it. So, as we sit here in downtown Nashville and hold down CMA Fest, we are also going to do our geek thing because I know the Venn diagram of that is so close over. But we have so much to talk about, and this is why we are your one-stop spot for all things geek culture. Days like today. Guys, we got to talk about on the movie front. I had to break this down in our tweet and just really look at it. So on the movie front today, we're going to be talking about Jurassic World Dominion, the Black Adam trailer, news that Joker 2 is coming, and even crazier news that we're finally getting that Marvel's Thunderbolt movie. On the TV side, we have to review Mrs. Marvel Episode 1, The Boys Episode 4, Obi-Wan Episode 4. Oh, and we are called Comic Book Nation, so we also have a whole comic book thing. We had a whole video game thing to go with this, but like I said, that vid lurking and things, we had to make some last-minute changes. So, but starting next week, we're going to have even more gaming content coming into the show.
That's right.
We're hitting all sides of the culture here. So let's start at the top. And as we laid it out so we don't kill our producers, Jurassic World Dominion is hitting theaters as we speak. I got out and got to see Jurassic World Dominion a little early this week. And I will say this about it. Jurassic World Dominion, very much, as I tweeted, is the Jurassic Park 3 of this franchise. I know that Jurassic World has gone to great lengths to imitate the Jurassic Park movie franchise, throughout its run, so why stop now? But if you remember Jurassic Park 3, it was very much this kind of B-movie romp that brought back Sam Neill's, Alan Grant, and kind of played on that whole nostalgia of the first movie by basically just kind of doing a more low-rent version of Jurassic Park. And basically that's what Jurassic World Dominion is. It's kind of the same thing. It's just very much a B movie that is kind of a low-rent Jurassic World and brings back the original cast to kind of spice things up and add a little more flavor. I will say the big draw is seeing the original cast of, Sam Neill and Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum coming back. And they're fun. They're certainly fun in this movie. The movie structure and kind of story premise, I think, are a little different than you might expect. And they're somewhat disappointing because this is this film that says it's Jurassic World Dominion, right? The big twist at the end of the second one is the dinosaurs are now out in the wild. They're not on an island. And yet this movie, in some ways, is the smallest of all of them because it really does restrict most of the story to not even like a park, but like an island research facility that's just out there that is kind of trying to create this dinosaur preserve. And that's where most of the action takes place.
Really?
Yeah. And it's kind of a weird, it's not out in the world. It's not like examining how dinosaurs are out in the world and all these set pieces. Yeah, it's kind of a weird bait and switch in this movie. It all takes place, everything you're kind of seeing in these trailers right here is either one half of the story is the Jurassic World characters, Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, and their new character who's awesome, I forget her name, but she's awesome, the pilot, getting to this facility. And the other half of the story is set at the facility with the original cast members having come to this facility and being able to find out it's not what they think it is and kind of rebelling. And then the two stories kind of meet in the third act.
Surprising.
Yeah, so it's really a small, like I said, kind of B movie, and it's almost all set on this island research facility, and so it kind of tricks you there, but It's very small. The set pieces are kind of small, and like not a lot happens in terms of like character arcs or anything. And this is certainly kind of a weird whimper of an end to the larger trilogy, because I don't know that there is a big larger arc or point to this whole thing. I don't think anything is solved or anything like revolutionary is figured out. It's just like, yes, we've experienced dinosaurs some more. Wouldn't it be cool if we could all just kind of like live together?
But like that scene with we just saw the pterodactyl like flying around the building. That like the whole concept of this was that's what was awesome about the end of the last one.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it's so weird that they don't.
Well, yes, and so a lot of it is just kind of stock news footage of them saying, here's how dinosaurs... So it's a lot of like CNN recreations where you see scenes like that where it's like, what do we do about dinosaurs? And they're living in like the Sears Tower now, and like... So a lot of that is just news footage from around the world. And the first act has basically them going to try to, while the Jurassic World characters are finding their way and figuring out this island facility is there, they have to go into like the underworld of the new dino trade and kind of figure out things. So it's a little bit of a Mission Impossible.
Okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah, and so like, and that's the scene you see like Chris Pratt and the Raptors and chasing him down the street. That's all just like one of the first or second act parts. And so, yeah, there is some of that, but like when you really get down to it, most of this movie is set on this bio-research facility in this island. So,
Question.
Yeah.
Should we see this in the theaters?
I'm not going to get too hard. I know Film Twitter has been kind of crapping on Jurassic World, but Dominion.
You think?
Yeah, I'm not going to go that hard. I think it's a fine popcorn movie. I like Jurassic World 3. I like it better than The Lost World because it is just a stupid another dinosaur movie, B movie. So like, and I like that stuff. So this wasn't bad, and it's not terrible. Like moment to moment, it's a good popcorn entertaining movie. But like when you're talking about the larger majesty of what Jurassic Park was and what it set up, I think I've read one review that kind of nailed it on the head by saying like, this movie is just like it's clear by now that these movies are product, right? Like they're just product. And this one feels the most like a product. Like somebody in the studio was like, okay, how do we get the most? And like the dinosaurs don't feel like the centerpiece, and the wonderment of dinosaurs doesn't feel like the centerpiece. This is like a very, let's bring back some high profile humans and have them run around and like do stuff. And we bump into a dinosaur here and we bump into a dinosaur there. And it's kind of like, okay, but like, yeah.
What happened? So I need to know one thing, because Blue and that whole little story has been like one of my favorite things about the new movies. Is there anything worth, like, do I get some little nugget of, oh, that's amazing? Like, do I get some little heartfelt thing?
There is a whole thing. There's an arc with Blue, but it bookends the kind of movie because, like I said, there's a status quo at the beginning that's like where the Jurassic World characters are after the last film. Then something happens that makes them have to go to this facility and seek out. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a quest that gets set up. And so Blue is kind of on the either end of that quest. And so, but Blue is very much a part of the story in a way. So,
I love Blue.
Yeah. All right, but that's Jurassic World Dominion. I don't want to disappoint anybody. It's still good popcorn entertainment. Hit the theater. Turn off your brain. It's one of those, like, go turn off your brain and don't question like the minute-to-minute thing, because there is some just kind of the baseline enjoyment of this, like scary dino sequence.
So disappointing.
Scary. Yeah, but and there's some callbacks and fun stuff like that.
Like, I still want to see it. I agree with some people in the chat. Like, I want to see it, but I won't like break myself having to like go to the theater.
There's
like
nothing,
if it pops up on streaming.
And
I'm
no
okay.
offense to director Colin Trevorrow, whose work I do enjoy, but there is nothing so cinematic about this that's like, it's not Top Gun. Like, I don't say you gotta go see this on like IMAX and there's all these sequences. Like, no, I mean, the dinosaur stuff isn't good enough to like be like, yeah, it's not cinematic. It's B movie. It's just like little scenes of dino head sticking out here. You know what I mean?
Speaking of cinematic,
yeah.
Black
Good
Adam.
segue.
Yeah,
Good segue.
Well, hold on. You're getting ahead of yourself. I also saw Lightyear, y'all. It's been a busy week, so I saw Lightyear, but we're not going to get into that. But I did see Lightyear, and I took my little 4-year-old, and he really loved it. And again, Lightyear is also not what you might expect. It's a little more sci-fi than I thought. Like, there's some heady sci-fi stuff in there, but pretty enjoyable. We'll do a full review on Lightyear next week when it's hitting theaters. But I saw that too. It's been a busy week.
You might need to get Charlie, and I know he loved
Charlie
it.
was there. Yeah, Charlie
he
was there.
adored it.
My son was like, "Who is?" My son briefly met Charlie. I was like, "Who is that?" I was like, "Son, that's a whole other story." All right, but yes, thank you for the segue. Now, moving from Jurassic World Dominion, Matt, what was our other big movie event?
The Rock!
Yeah.
The most electrifying man on television and in movies and tequila and everything else now. Black Adam is we finally have a Black Adam trailer. And I was impressed. I don't know. I came away pretty hyped for this. What do you think? You don't look as sold as
Oh, no,
me.
I was very much impressed by this trailer. Remember, I've been like, backstory, we've all been hurt. I said in the chat, we've all been real hurt. Matt had COVID. I was down with this crazy infection. I had to have a tooth ripped out of my head. Like, it's been kind of a crazy blur of a couple. Yeah, it's a whole other thing. But there's, I was dying. A tooth was trying to take me out. But anyway.
Oh, no.
So it's been kind of a blur of a week or two. I don't know how long it's been. But Black Adam, I kind of missed this when it hit. Like, and I've just been trying to get on my feet this week, but I watched this last night and was like, oh yeah, no, this is official. Like I'm in for this.
It looks good, man. Yeah. And I mean, everyone's hyped about, not even just Black Adam, right? Because everyone's hyped about the JSA and some of the stuff coming out from here. But I just thought it fit, like to look at that shot. Now here's the thing. Some of this is stuff we actually have already seen. We saw some of this in like the little DC trailer before everything went nuts. We saw that trailer. But like this, oh my God. It's Hawkman, son. When the Hawk people are done right, I adore them. This scene made me laugh. There's so many just like fun little things. It does kind of feel like a Rock DC movie with stuff like that. It very much feels that way. But I was pumped, man. I think this looks good.
Yeah, this is what I like. This just feels like good B movie, like superhero B movie, and I don't say that in any kind of bad way. It's just pure genre pulpiness with a Rock kind of hamming it up in the best way. And like, you see things like Aldous Hodge and like as Hawkman looks awesome, and just the cinematography and the photography in this, just shots already are classic, like him lighting up that mountainside with the lightning or flying through those jets. Yeah, and even funny moments like this, like him catching a rocket, like all of this looks so polished and good that like, I mean, The Rock I know is at least going to put together a competent movie experience. I mean, he's like the successor to Tom Cruise, right? Like the man just does ungodly things to himself, no pun, just to make sure we get at least an entertaining movie out of this. So, and Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate, like the casting, I'm really in for all of this stuff.
Yeah, it also just hits that I love the scene in the air with the two jets. Yeah. Because that is, so if you're going to capture like who Black Adam is in one scene, I felt that scene did it really well. It's like, oh, who are these two jets in my... All right, you would assume anyway that's his territory. He's very territorial about his country. And if they're in there and he looks at them and just like, no, and he just
slaps it.
He slaps it.
Yeah, he doesn't even hit it. He slaps the wing
and
off.
Doesn't break his stride. He just keeps flying straight. I love that. I thought that if we get a lot of stuff like that, it'll be great. I'm pumped, man.
Yeah, and I think they're going to do a good job of nailing like the kind of Black Adam that we like, even in the what's his name? Who Bendis Justice League, like the kind of the complicated anti-hero who's that line like heroes don't kill people, where Hawkman's just trying to like train him on like what's going on in modern age, and he's like, well, I do.
That was my favorite part of the trailer, honestly.
I mean, that's a great line. I mean, it's hard to pull off. There it is. But The Rock does, nail it, and like, and it looks like it's not without humor, just like him shots of, and I love people who understand that superhero stuff, like wide shots of stuff happening, like a guy flying across the city because he got flung by Black Adam. It's just great. So, Black Adam looks like a lot of fun. This was not high on my DC movie list this year, but I mean, it is now. So, makes me feel okay.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's happening. There was so
actually
long.
Happening.
How many years did we talk about this movie?
Oh God.
Yeah,
since
and he
I
teased it.
Started the pod.
You're
honestly.
right. Yeah, it's cool to see it happen. This is very like Duke Nukem Forever vibes. But it looks good.
And I'm kind of hopeful about like even getting this and Shazam in the same year instead of like Flash and stuff. It makes me feel better. Like the Shazam verse over here looks like it could be pretty fun. Could be good for right now. So Black Adam, I'm about it. All right,
more Black Adam comics, please.
I don't know.
Oh, by the way, there is a Christopher Priest Black Adam book miniseries that is, the first issue was phenomenal. So we will be reading that when that releases.
Perfect. Let's go.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's really good. Anyway, continue.
Oh, I didn't even see. Is our Twitch stream? It faltered for a minute there?
Yeah.
Oh,
It
man.
did, but it's back up. So if anybody's watching,
Yeah.
just refresh the window.
No
and
wonder
it'll
our
be good.
YouTube, our YouTube viewers are good too. You guys can hop on.
I directed
there.
everybody to the YouTube. I was like, hey, bounce over.
Yeah, nobody's paying us. Nobody's paying us. So you can go wherever you want to stream. None of them are paying us. All right. Sorry about that. So the next bit of news that we got to get to was Joker.
Your favorite movie.
Speaking of things that are finally actually happening, Joker 2 is actually happening. Joker, Folie à deux. That's the best French I got.
That's good. That's
Folie
good.
à deux. Yeah, they grabbed my mouth for a while there, and I said enough of this French stuff. But yeah, I got that much out. So we are getting a Joker 2. It's officially happening. It said that Joaquin Phoenix is currently negotiating the bag for that, and he's got a baby now, so that changes things. That dump truck full of money always changes things when you have kids. Yeah, Todd Phillips shared a picture of the script, which we had heard and been rumored that he was working on, but he has confirmed it is done. And Folie à deux is a psychiatric syndrome where two or more people begin to share delusions. And so we've talked about, this whole concept of a Joker 2, I think back in the COVID days, we had to build a whole show around crap like this.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Debating should Joker 2 happen. But now it seems like we're aging like fine wine because here we are. But there is possibility to do this right. And I think Phillips and Phoenix have said, they're not probably interested in doing a kind of linear sequel. They're kind of interested in probably messing with our minds again and giving us a whole nother kind of version of Joker or Arthur Fleck in an origin story or somebody else who's also claimed to be Joker out there. There's a lot of ways to go with this. After seeing what DC has done with books like Three Jokers, there's nothing that's really off the table.
That's true, yeah.
And Todd Phillips has been kind of the guy they've been looking to get basically like a version of DC's Black Label onto the screen, because Joker was arguably the first successful test monkey for that. And so, there's a lot of ways they could go, and I'm kind of interested. I would love them to just do something that completely messes with you about the first movie and basically gives us even another kind of almost like anthology version of how Joker could come to be or like whatever is happening or two Jokers.
Man.
it'd
An
be
anthology is interesting. So I didn't even think of that approach, and that would be I would be down for that. I wasn't as high on the original Joker as as a lot of people, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people were.
I thought
still
it was great,
enjoyed
but
it.
I didn't like it. I didn't watch it again, but I thought it was great.
I
They did
didn't
a
either.
great
It's
job.
a hard to
but-
rewatch, but when you do, it is actually really good. Like when you
Yeah.
rewatch it, it's actually a really good movie. And Joaquin Phoenix really did a good job.
Are you pumped for this, Janelle? This is your favorite character.
Yeah, I am. I think I've done this to myself. I've burned myself out a little bit. I've talked about it on Batman and Joker content. And now that I've expanded my horizons and I'm starting to get more familiar with other characters and heroes and villains, I have no problem with it. It's not something that I'm like, oh, I'm more excited about Black Adam.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I would not have thought that a year ago
I've learned a lot, though. I'm expanding
No, it's amazing.
my
though.
repertoire.
And you're not wrong. It's not like DC doesn't put out 90 Batman things and 90 Joker things every month. But that stuff sells, so I get it.
When you don't
shame.
read the comics, if you are a casual, fan and you're not reading the comics and you're maybe not watching animated stuff, it doesn't feel like too much.
Right.
But when you do work in all those other things, plus you throw video games on top of that or action figures, things that I'm just starting to get into, it's wow, okay, there's a lot here.
For sure. No, for sure.
Yeah, I think Joker 2 will depend on when we find out what the concept is for this and what the premise is. So
Agreed.
All right, we're not going to spend too much time on that. The other things, and we didn't link this because we're so prepared, but we're getting a Thunderbolts movie, y'all.
Yeah.
So, after theories upon theories,
Jake Schreier will be directing.
Yeah, Jake Schreier will be directing Marvel's Thunderbolts movie.
Black Widow's Eric Pearson is writing the script, and that's all literally we know about this thing. But I think more people were just celebrating the fact that we're, at least if everything holds together, we're getting a Thunderbolts movie in the MCU, and that's huge. And especially when you start looking at the lineups over the years,
Oh yeah,
it really assembles a group of characters that a lot of them either stole the show in the MCU or we haven't gotten enough of, right?
Yeah.
So like Taskmaster, people want to see that. Like, there's a very split decision on how that character was used in Black Widow.
Oh,
people
yeah.
would like to see more development. Well, here's your perfect way to do that, right? Ghost stole the show, and so
Ghost.
you're able to. Wilson Fisk has been kind of maneuvering around the Thunderbolts. Characters like Norman Osborn, obviously, who knows with the Sony deal. Yeah, Zemo's another one, right?
Zemo.
So there's so many characters that this kind of circles around, and everyone would just love to see them do something. And now you have your perfect thing.
Yeah.
Plus, the concept is fun.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it's one of two things that we know Marvel's been kind of slowly stringing together in MCU Phase 4, right? The other thing is Young Avengers. We've had those characters steadily just plopping out, including Miss Marvel right now. And the other one is the Thunderbolts characters, who are, Marvel's been teasing for years, like characters like Ghost from, Ant-Man and the Wasp. And, then we saw U.S. Agent and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Tim Roth's Abomination is steadily being brought back into the mix, and everywhere from Shang-Chi to She-Hulk.
And you're like, why?
Why? Yeah, exactly. So what is, and that's a perfect tee-up, like whatever, in She-Hulk it looks like he's fighting his own court case, and Jennifer Walters will defend him and maybe even get him off and get him out, Jesus. And basically, there's another character, right?
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of people who are kind of being maneuvered, and Val's at the center of this. And why do you get Julia Louis-Dreyfus to do something like this?
Unless you're going to have her play a pivotal part in something. And it really pulls a lot of those threads
and
together.
I would love to see her, even if they just copy Suicide Squad. Finally getting Marvel to do something like Suicide Squad a little better would be okay. And not to crap on the Suicide Squad, which I love, but I'm saying as a mainstream connective piece, right? And so, having Julia Louis-Dreyfus be the Amanda Waller of this would be hilarious, because she'll just do it kind of much funnier.
Love that.
And then you throw in the thing, right, of that if they stick with the original premise, over the years, the team has essentially just become a merc squad.
Yeah.
But, occasionally they go back to that original thing of these were masquerading as heroes to try and put forth a villainous plot, and then they pretty much succeed. They get so over as heroes that they end up, half of them want to stick to what their original plan was, the other half are like, no, we like being heroes, and you have this fun kind of dysfunctional mix with this team, and that's what makes this interesting, because a lot of the characters we're pulling in, right, especially if Abomination, that whole court case thing plays out, does he want to go straight? Does he want to be I'm actually just gonna be an upstanding citizen. I'm not gonna do this stuff. And then you have other characters who are like, nah, I want to screw with things. That's a fun mix to put together.
Yeah.
So I like it.
I know we're all feeling the loss of William Hurt right about now, the Thunderbolt Ross, but they could conceivably also recast Thunderbolt Ross. It's not impossible, especially if you're gonna go Red Hulk with it. But I think this is just fun. I think there are, in skipping the Civil War II mess of it all, I think there is a clear path where the MCU can use one of these to kind of catalyze the other, which is you do Thunderbolts, but you do government trying to make their own Avengers who are not very scrupulous, but they're trying to sell them and brand them, kind of like The Boys almost.
Yeah.
And then the reaction to that would be a group of young, disillusioned kind of heroes, almost like the start of Champions, being like, screw this. This is not cool. This is not Avengers. And, people like Kate Bishop and Kamala Khan would certainly look at something like Thunderbolts and be like, oh, hell no, and form their own team, which would be Young Avengers. So I could see this working out well. Yeah, so,
That's awesome.
I'm all about it. So let's go.
You guys just built the hype, man. Now I'm really chomping at the bit. That's so exciting. We did have a question in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
About do you have any comic suggestions to read or watch or anything to kind of get to know some of these characters better?
Original Thunderbolts run, I would say, with Marquez Bagley and I forget who wrote that, but the original Thunderbolts run you should check out. And
Busiek, I believe. Right?
I
believe it was Kurt.
I think it might have been Kurt Busiek, Busiek. But that one from the 90s was that's the quintessential beginning. And it's a fun one. That's the first issue reveal that they were villains that caught everybody surprised. Because Marvel tried to market these as new heroes, and everybody was like, who the hell is Citizen V? And who are these knockoff characters? And you got to the end of the first issue and you're like, oh! And so that's a good one. And each time they rebooted the team and did like a launch, I think is good. I think the King in Black one was really good. The Thunderbolts one that brought Kingpin in as
Matthew Rosenberg's Thunderbolts, which is the most recent. Like if you look for most recent, it was like 3 issues.
Yeah,
and I thought it was great. It actually really captured. Plus, it got me hyped for some characters. I mean, having Rhino in there and Star and some other characters. Like this is one of those very Suicide Squad like franchises where you can throw in typeface. Like you can throw in random heroes and villains, Stiltman, and one of my personal favorites, Big Wheel. Like you can throw all those in,
Cardiac,
and just have them get killed. He is not B-list. How dare you, sir? He is an A++ list character that is underutilized. But yeah, I think those. Also, I really liked, and I mean, this was kind of, we had Thunderbolts during Dark Reign.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually really fun too, because it was really playing into the hero thing, because all the other people were gone. So they stepped in their place, and you had some of that same feedback. So I would say some of that as well.
And yeah, just like I think we'll mix Champions and Young Avengers into one thing in the MCU, Dark Avengers and Thunderbolts is arguably something you can mix into one thing, and that'd be great. All right, somebody asked in the chat, when Miss Marvel? My answer, now. All right, Miss Marvel. So let's talk about Miss Marvel. Matt, take the floor. This is your girl, Kamala Khan. Besides Captain Marvel, this is like the one I see you kind of murk out over the most. And so now Kamala Khan's in the MCU. She's here. Was it everything you hoped for, Matt?
It was everything I hoped for. It's so fun. I love this show so much. But this all rests on Iman Vellani's performance as Kamala. Like she has to work. Like that character has to be the one that is endearing and gets you to be empathetic and all those things and really sucks you into the show, and she does. She's amazing. But like it's all these fun little sequences in school, and like her and Bruno, like there's just some really fun stuff. The Avengers Con stuff was very fun too. I thought they played into like it's a great way to work in Easter eggs. You know me, I'm not like the biggest like, oh my God, I spotted a acorn that looks like the thing from issue whatever. Like I don't care.
No, but you hate that Leo DiCaprio.
But it's cool. But it's cool to work it into Avengers Con because it makes sense. Like you can, all the shirts they did. So there's just a lot of fun stuff in here. And I gotta say, I know we talked about it on this show previously, and we'll get into it too, because I feel like episode 2, we really have a lot to talk about there as far as the powers. But just as they touch on them here, I think I've come around, and I actually really like the way they've implemented the way she gets the powers here. I actually like the family connection. I like that stuff. Again, I don't want to go into too many things for episode 2, but we'll talk about it then. Man, this show is just it's great, man. It captures that character so well. This is great.
Yeah, Marvel's done YA stuff before, Cloak and Dagger, Runaways, but never with this kind of amount of like, I would call this infectious, and Iman Vellani is, like you said, a major reason why. This scene that we're watching on the screen right now with the guidance counselor is like, where I watched it the first time in the screeners, that was a scene that really made me endear her to me, when she's just sitting there and she's doing the thing, like, and she's like, do I have to figure out my whole life now?
Yeah.
And it's just the way she kind of like, her mannerisms and the way she plays she's just so, for a new actress, she's so good with like comedic timing and things like that, and just really selling in. It helps that she is a real fangirl in real life, but like just the exuberance of like playing somebody who is a Marvel fan. In some ways, they do a smart job of taking Kamala Khan, who would be the easiest for people to distance themselves out from, and saying, oh, I don't understand this, brown girl from Jersey and her Muslim culture and all this, but making her feel like any one of us as fans,
right? And
kind of making that connection, and with her best friend and all of them, like seeing them nerd out and do stuff and prepare for conventions and make costumes. It's easy to put yourself in that place if you're ever a Marvel fan who's gone to Comic Cons or on any of that stuff. Like, you are Kamala Khan, and so they do a great job of doing that while also building a kind of cultural world around her, and from both Jersey City and to her identity as a Muslim and like all that stuff, and making it feel lived in and real, and not just, hey, here's our Muslim character. Like, it's really well done. And yeah, it's just all kind of combines in the first episode, for an episode that has little to nothing to do with actual superpowers for most of the runtime, is pretty miraculous that so many people came away enjoying this. which is just kind of a, for lack of a better word, is a talky world building episode. But they're fun flares, like just having her riding a bike in her neighborhood and her imagination and kind of expressing it through the buildings and the drawings and the buildings moving and all that stuff is just really good. And like, you get fun stuff that they've kind of picked up from things like Ant-Man, like doing sequences, like her imagining how their Comic-Con heist is going to go.
So good.
Comic-Con heist versus like the reality and all that stuff. And yeah, it just makes it a lot of fun. And watching it a second time, I picked out so many more like little details and just things that they do in this episode.
Like the
really
bike
make it
scene
fun.
where when they get on the bus and she's like, it's not going to be there when I get
Oh, he's
back
like, you
in.
think it'll be there? He's like, it's a Jersey City, 0.0001%. Which is, if you've ever lived around Jersey City, Newark, New Jersey, anywhere of those outside in New York things, like, yeah, no. I'm surprised they didn't have somebody like come by as the bus was pulling away and be like,
take the
oh,
bus.
yeah. I'll be like, maybe, and then be like,
That's great.
because that's really happens. Like, yeah.
Before I roll into something else, Janelle, what did you think?
Oh gosh, I mean, you guys nailed it. You described everything perfectly. So I guess just honestly relatable and so much better than I even expected. I had high hopes for it, but it was just really, I was afraid it might go into like CW land. And it did not feel that way at all. It felt like high production. It felt like the creators were taking so much care with every single moment. And the fact that she is such a fangirl, I like look up to her. Like I admire her. I'm like, oh my gosh, she knows her Marvel content. Like as an actress or as a human being outside of her role, that I'm just like, how can you not love her? Like I love her as who she is off screen, and then of course I love her on screen too. So pleasantly lived up to my expectations and kind of went beyond. Honest, I can't wait for episode 2 because for sure, and they did fine by it. But what you said, like there wasn't very much superheroing, and they still managed to have my full attention. So
yeah, I think one of the things that helps this series is that it's incredibly authentic, not because of just how it's portrayed, but because of the people making it, right? It's people of a culture making a thing about the culture. So it rings true because it is. And we talk about this with some of the creators and things like that, right? There's just a lived in quality amongst the family stuff here that feels genuine. And if you're, even from a different culture, right, you can kind of go, I have my own twists on that, but it still feels real. I can put my own experiences on that. So I think they did that part really well because the family is, in a lot of shows and with a lot of characters, family can be involved, but it's not necessarily critical. And in Kamala's case, they really are a kind of a tangential part of her character and her life story. So it's awesome that they got that right here. And even like her dad coming in, I was as a dad, I don't know if you felt this way, I was crushed. Like with him. Aww. I was like, dude, that was not smart. That was not good. Like it was not a sound decision you made to do this and think it would go over well. However, I'm still crushed for you because I see my daughter doing the same thing to me at some point about something.
Yeah, I was about to say,
it happens.
Yeah, my kids are older now. Like my kids are 4 and about to be 7. Like this happened. This is like my daily life.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna happen. Just you'll be okay.
Like, from just trying to give them meals that I almost want to kill them because they won't eat meals, and they're just like, no. After I've made like an entire thing, to just like things you're excited about to them, just being like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah,
and
it was
like,
just
what?
It hit me hard, man.
Yeah, it happens. It's just, and then you just start thinking of the multiverse and alternate lives you could have had. It's a whole thing. You'll see.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah, you'll see. But I felt for the dad. I was just like, yep. And he had the right reaction. He's like, F this, you ain't going. That's the way you deal with your personal disappointment. Take it out on the child. Very good. I was like, right cultural step here.
Oh my God.
But no, I agree. Like, even the subtle things we don't have to like hammer on, and they do it throughout the episodes. There's more and more you get to see of her world. And just some of the things that they push against and their thing about Kamala being a young woman of today, still in this culture where her brother kind of has much more freedom and authority to her, to like, there's a mosque, and we won't get into all that, but yeah, it's very well done. For people saying like this wasn't for them, I mean, again, I was like the biggest skeptic about this, man. And it is good. And I think what Janelle said is also really true that we don't highlight enough. Marvel didn't just make a superhero series. They actually put production. In some ways, this looks better than a lot of the other series because Marvel put the budget and creativity into making like an actual blockbuster teen coming of age
It
movie.
feels like its own show and not just, oh, it's MCU show point.
Well, I'm saying it looks even better than a show. It feels
Yeah.
like a teen coming of age movie.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has its own aesthetic. And so
Yeah,
I feel like it comes through.
Beautiful.
Good work, Marvel. All right, so we're enjoying Miss Marvel. All right, we're gonna take a break, but when we come back, we got to talk. Oh no, we got more Miss
Yeah,
Marvel.
we got more Miss Marvel.
Oh
man.
yeah, let's get to that.
So we got to talk with Iman Vellani and Sana Amanat and Bisha Ali, Bisha K. Ali. I don't know why I flipped those. We got to talk to them, and we kept this just the episode 1 center stuff, just a fun little montage of stuff we talked to them about. I cannot wait. There's something that we talk about for episode 2 that we will talk about next week that I'm very excited because I had to geek out with them about it. But check this out and come back to us. Hi, Iman.
Hi.
How are you? Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, I'm so good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. Is it true that you got the news of the casting on your last day of high school?
Yes.
Oh
June
my God.
24th.
Oh my God. Okay, so what was more surreal? That call, your first call with Brie, or putting on the suit, the Miss Marvel suit for the first time? Or is there any way to like stack those against each other?
Yes. Kevin Feige tops everything. That call was definitely the most surreal. And then probably Brie and then the suit, if I were to rank them.
We also get to see Kamala's like ability to put plans into action. I know they don't always go smoothly, but like the action, the commitments there, you know, are you looking forward to the day where maybe she gets to lead her own team, some Secret Warriors, some champions at that? Is that something you'd love to do down the line?
Yes. She does lead the champions basically in the comics. So she has that, innate leadership skill, and I would be more than happy to take on that role. I think the champions would be really fun to see in the MCU. So, yeah.
Well, and, I know obviously we talked about being such a big Captain Marvel fan. I know you're a fan of the character as well. What do you want to see most from their dynamic down the line that the comics kind of captures?
I think that mentor relationship is quite nice. Honestly, just having, your superhero older sister look out for you, because that's how I kind of feel with Brie. She definitely took me under her wing, and she understands how incredibly intimidating and scary all of this can be. It's a very unnatural position for any human to be, having their face on billboards and people knowing them. And she just wanted to like prep me for these next couple years, and shared her experiences of filming and what gets her through and how to take care of herself. And I just hope Kamala gets all the same treatment.
Hi, Bisha. How are you?
Hi, Matthew. I'm very well, thank you. It's lovely to meet you. I'm immediately obsessed by your background. Like, want to know every single Funko Pop that you own, because it looks like the behind of this camera that you can't see. Amazing. It's so lovely to speak with you. I love speaking to collectors. It's my favorite thing. Hi.
Oh, that's amazing. It's wonderful to meet you. And congratulations on a great show. I've had the chance to see 2 episodes, and they're fantastic. Just kind of starting from the top, what was the biggest challenge of adapting Kamala and her world into the MCU? And what are you most proud of?
I think the biggest challenge is always that there's a piece that's not a challenge, more like a puzzle I love puzzles. Like, I'm a gamer, so I love fixing things and putting things together and solving things. But the challenge is the story that we're going to tell fits into the larger fabric of like a decade of on-screen storytelling, this big web of storytelling that is the MCU. And how do we keep the show its own and special and unique and so specific to Kamala, but also like get those pieces in, connect it all up, and like live within that that channel that we have that is also ever changing, because suddenly a schedule changes and that means something different for what people know in the world. So you got to change things in your show. So that's like a moving part that like I like swear down. I think it could change. So in the next few weeks, who knows? It's too late. I take it back. No, I'm just knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But that's I think one of the challenges. But for me, it's my favorite kind of challenge. And I think the thing I'm most proud of is just being a part of this. It feels like yes, I have my vision, but then so do the directors, and so does Sana Amanat, and so does Kevin, and so do every single writer I had the privilege of bringing into that writer's room and working with. I feel my best when I'm in a writer's room, but when writers are sharing their ideas and sharing of themselves and also what this comic means to them, it's like, I don't know, I'm a very emotional person, but that means so much to me to be a part of that and to be a part of Kamala's journey to screen and a part of this moment. Yeah, it means the world. It's a big deal and it's great.
How are you, Sana?
Hey, Matthew, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Of course. Is our boy James still there, Viscardi?
Yeah, he's still here.
Oh, tell him I say hi.
No problem. Will do. Well, you had said previously that, this was Miss Marvel was such a great fit for TV and for a show. And it really does suit it so well, at least after seeing the first 2 episodes. What about the character and the world kind of makes for such an easy transition? And what was the biggest challenge in kind of adapting Kamala and her world of characters into the MCU?
I mean, I think the comic book so naturally translates like to live action because it's such a, obviously comic books are of course visual, like cinema is and live action is, but there's something very bright and vibrant about the comics that we really wanted to capture. And I think it was a lot of fun to capture. And I feel like we were most excited about that. And of course, it was also a challenging thing to make sure that it felt, fun and cool and interesting, but also not overly, but not so far removed from the MCU that you couldn't believe that she's going to run across the river and potentially, go hang out with who's left alive? Thor? I don't know. I was like struggling. I was like, wait a minute, who do we got left? So I think that was overall the creative challenge of just kind of finding that balance between style and some of the more realness of the MCU, if I can say that.
Well, and I think also there was a lot of talk around the powers, and I know it was kind of a group decision, just kind of seeing like how her power set fits within the greater MCU, and I think the show did a really good job of finding a nice halfway point because you get to play with some of the things we see in the books, but it fits within this kind of specific framework that is different. Was that kind of the goal for finding that spot?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, we had earlier iterations where, and I haven't told anyone this. You're getting it first. We had earlier iterations where the powers were a little bit more like limitless. And this is just in early talks of it, where not limitless, but she was able to kind of manipulate and create things, any kinds of like kind of light energy. And it just didn't feel right to me. It felt like, we still wanted to make sure we had that, comic book connectivity for sure. Those visuals are really important to us. And bringing in those embiggen fists and those embiggen legs and kind of playing with that aspect, which was really fun, and how like the powers were morphing and distorting her body a little bit in strange ways, I think were just a nice little homage to the comics, and yet were evolved. So I do think we had that touchstone. And then at the same time, I think evolving the powers from an origin standpoint, so it was linked, I think, more closely to her heritage is quite strong. I think it's an important message in the context of what this show is all about and what Kamala's story is all about. And so we kind of leaned into that, and we leaned into that. And it also was sort of a marker of things to come in the MCU, which, you'll see more of in future things that I can't talk about.
Hi, Iman.
Hi.
Now, if
How are you? Thank you so much
what
for taking
we
the time.
do here at Comic Book Nation, that was Matthew Aguilar bringing you scoop for all you Marvel fans. For us, just one aspect of what we do here, getting those Marvel scoops. Other shows make it a whole thing. We make it just one aspect of what we do here. That'll do it. Thank you to the cast and crew of Ms. Marvel for sitting down and talking with us. I know that was a dream come true for Matt, and we try to make him, give him little perks here and there so he sticks around and works even harder. It's very good. So that was one of them. Thank you, Matt, for doing that for us. We are going to take a break, but when we come back, we got to hit what happened on TV this week in The Boys and Obi-Wan. We've also got to talk about new comics this week, so stay tuned for all of that. Welcome back to Comic Book Nation Season 4. Forgot the name of our show for a second, but that's who we are, Comic Book Nation, and this is Season 4. As I said, when we came back, we already talked about Miss Marvel on the TV front and gave our reactions and our talk with the cast and the crew. But, of course, Geek TV is back strong, so Miss Marvel wasn't even the only thing on its day that we had to watch on Wednesday. So Disney Plus is now in this kind of double up flex that they're doing between Marvel and Star Wars. So Wednesdays are both Ms. Marvel and Obi-Wan days. So we talked about Ms. Marvel. Let's talk about Obi-Wan Episode 4, which has kind of turned out to be the more divisive. I didn't expect this one to be the divisive episode, but it was, strangely enough.
So much back and forth on this one.
Yeah, and I reviewed it for Comicbook.com, and what I'll say is Obi-Wan Episode 4 is, if you know anything about anime, and my anime fans out there, this was clearly a filler episode. I know it's made to look important, but it is a filler episode because there's nothing that really happens here that you couldn't have done like in another episode easily. And it kind of makes the whole thing from Episode 3 and Leia's capture at the end kind of a weird momentary problem that gets solved in this. That said, it is one of the better filler episodes I've seen done. And this episode was clearly heavily affected by the COVID mandates. There's the biggest guest star in this episode is long Imperial hallways. And basically, long, empty Imperial hallways, and they were going for a Shining vibe.
That was good.
I know Ewan McGregor did the Shining sequel, but this is what, the main star of this show was. But, again, this was all clearly set up from the Imperial hallways to, like, Tala being in that empty kind of station. This was all COVID mandate, soundstage stuff. I get it. But, yeah, it was a filler episode, and I think what some fans are reacting to is not the episode in itself, which was still entertaining as a rescue mission. Mandalorian built a whole Season 2 finale off a rescue mission. So I think what people are just beginning to react to is the anxiety of what's not going to have time in this Obi-Wan series with just 2 episodes left. I think the people who came to the series thinking, like, we want the Dark Logan character study. We want to see him searching through the Force and learning the Force Ghost and doing all this stuff. Are beginning to realize, like, I don't think this series is going to give me everything that I personally want. And it's going to be more this kind of larger adventure with Leia and all this stuff. But, at a certain point, you got to let go of your own preconceived notions and just take with what's in front of you. And like I said, for a filler episode in a 6-episode series, you're going to get one. I think this was better, definitely better than like Episode 2, which was, again, kind of the same thing, but much better, done much better and on a much better scale. And a lot of the photography and shots Deborah Chow had in this one were really gorgeous.
See, I'm flipped. I think this was better than the first episode. Wow. I like 2 and 3 the most. 3 is like three is the best. But this is, I like this probably as much as I liked 2, as much as I liked 2. I was riveted. Like, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. I thought they built tension within the small moments so well. There's so many, like when she's going up and like she has to stall for time and Obi's trying to make it through the hallway, the haunted hallway. There's so many, even like they made seeker droids. I've never felt such tension from like a droid before. They made them feel like a real threat as opposed to like, oh, that's something I can easily cut down, no problem. Yeah. And that's what they're doing in the series overall, is kind of making the Empire really feel like the oppressing threat that they are. I think they're doing a really good job of that throughout the whole series. But here, man, and look, I know part of it is that little Leia is adorable. She's precious. Nothing should happen to her. How dare they threaten her? And like the interrogation scene was like, I just want, like, I want her to be safe at all times. So the stuff at the end, right, when we get the hand, like when they're just like, all that stuff I eat it up with a spoon. So I am very much, this episode was awesome. I came away just like on a high. I even tweeted about it. And then Charlie hit me up as like, what, you didn't like this? Like, you won't like this episode? We get into a whole conversation with. So yeah, there's a lot of conversations going on about this one. I understand that you're right. It doesn't, like when we get to the end here, we're kind of back where we where we were, I guess, about midway through episode 3. So I totally that makes sense. I still loved it, and I don't get the hate, man. I don't get the hate. This episode ruled. I was so into it. Janelle, what'd you think?
I think that it's very hard to have an opinion when we're talking about Star Wars. I've kind of reserved myself to stop tweeting about it and stop giving it any kind of criticism or love, because no matter what I do, I get backlash. And I think that like Star Wars fans need to take a deep look into themselves and like just feel love and positivity, and maybe do some meditation and realize that the Force, like what you love, is based on like meditation and chill. and so it has really left such a bad taste in my mouth that I'm not really enjoying the show anymore, honestly. I'm not really enjoying much Star Wars content because of the fandoms that have been very targeting. And I think that it's important for me to say that, because someone came at me and they were like, you need to go on the internet and listen to people's opinions about Star Wars. And I went, I am actually one of those people that gets paid to have an opinion on the internet about Star Wars. And I'm still receiving this.
Does that qualify?
Yeah, I know. And I was like, wow. So honestly, it's very hard for me
I get that.
to really be into it, because if I didn't have these outside sources, I would probably be eating this up and love it. And I said it on my stream the other day. I was like, it's really such a shame, because Kofi is such a super fan of Star Wars, and his energy and excitement for it and being on this podcast has really made me like really invested and much more into it. But on the flip side, some of these people on the internet have really soured the taste in my mouth for it.
Your ass would have ended up as an inquisitor.
Get control of your people. All right.
I don't care.
I don't know if you've seen Star Wars, but the whole point of it is the dark side's always out there. How do you maintain the light as a Jedi master?
I watched Doctor Who and Marvel and other like RuPaul's Drag Race.
Janelle would have been leading the Inquisitores. She'd have been like, "Yo, you know what? I've had
just
enough
give
of
up.
Flip
I would just be like, moving on. There's so much more content everywhere that I can enjoy freely and find like love in united with love in it.
Just gotta embrace the light. Don't let the dark side drag you.
I'll keep watching, but I'm no longer going to tweet anything about
Whenever
it.
they come up to me toxic, all I do is put up my hand and close my eyes and imagine like Grogu. Just do my Grogu on them.
Look, here's the thing. Grogu is like the ultimate tranquility. Like I have a Grogu pop, and I just like, oh my god, that's amazing. But it's in all seriousness, it is unfortunate that happened, because I saw that pop up on your Twitter feed and stuff, and I was like, that sucks. It really sucks.
Star Wars is scary. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have to write about Star Wars and Star Trek a lot.
Poor
they're
baby.
Both scary, and but Star Wars is much scarier.
Yes.
If you make a single mistake, and there's always some little thing from some little book, some little guidebook.
I responded onto someone else's tweet,
and they're like, "You didn't know this," and I'm like, "Oh my god, bro! Yeah, Star Wars can be really exhausting to even write about."
It's just not worth it to me, honestly.
Hey,
sorry.
That's that Inquisitor talk again. I'm telling you, this is how we get Revas.
I don't even know what an Inquisitor is, so there we go.
Boy, see, now you just got a whole new thing of Star Wars. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna leave you to your fate. Your fate is in the dark side. Belongs to the dark side.
I've been really enjoying
like
Star
that
Trek,
future
though.
GIF. Boom.
I was gonna say, see, she's been enjoying Star Trek though.
Yeah,
so maybe you now have an ally.
Yeah.
Now we just gotta get.
Hey, Star Trek is all happy vibes. We happy vibes.
I
over
do
there.
like the
Strange
Star
New
Trek
World, so.
content.
Now we just gotta get me to watch Star Trek.
Yeah,
I'm the
You've
last
got
one.
to, man.
It's insane
It's
that
great.
you do not. I mean, we're off the show right now, but it's insane that you do not watch Star Trek.
I know.
It is.
It's insane knowing what you love and like how much goofy stuff you love. The Power Rangers. If you love Power Rangers, how are you not like the biggest Star Trek? Like even like you should love even Enterprise and Voyager, Deep Space Nine. You should be like a Deep Space Nine encyclopedia. It's insane that you have not watched Star Trek. This is something we need to work on. This show.
Here's the thing: Strange New Worlds, though, all that talk has got me interested. I do want to watch
Deep Space Nine and the original Next Generations. You should be.
Okay, I watched the Next Generation. That's the only one I'm familiar with.
Yeah, you should watch Deep Space Nine though. You'd really love Deep Space Nine.
It's a lot of work.
All right. Anyway, that's not on our agenda today.
The boys is.
Yeah, we are the one-stop shop for all things geek culture. So Let's keep it moving. The Boys, episode 4. We're not going to go too deep because I know it's Friday and a lot of our listeners probably haven't had a chance, or some of you saved this for Friday night, you sick, sadistic people. But Friday night, yeah, I'm just kidding. But I mean, I'm not kidding, because if you see The Boys, and especially even this episode, yeah, I mean, if you're at home Friday night doing this, I got to question what you're doing. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about it. The Boys, episode 4. This season, again, another episode that could have been, filler episode, arguably. But this episode, I think The Boys, and we talked about this on another podcast show I was doing that you can find out out there. But,
How dare you?
Yeah, right. I'm like the only person. And raise your hand if this is the only thing you stream during the week on your own live stream. Raise your hand if this is the only live stream you do this week. All right, then. Let's keep it going. So, The Boys, episode 4, as I was saying, it's questionable whether, I was having this debate, whether The Boys should be episodic or a binge. And some people were arguing about, a friend of mine was arguing about a binge and how he kind of wishes it was a binge watch. But I said The Boys has played it smart more so than any other TV show of making sure there's something every week that that's gonna be trending in every episode. And this episode is certainly no shortage of things that could be trending. Karen Fukunaga has a sequence in this that is pretty intense. And there's a lot of just adult toy sales promotion in this episode of The Boys. But both for traditional use and non-traditional use. So there's a lot of that. And the show just keeps you talking, and it's crazy in the best way. And I like this season so far, and I like where it's going. So that's all I'm going to say. What about you guys?
Yeah, Janelle, what do you think?
Yeah, gosh, The Boys, I'm just having a blast. It's really nice to have The Boys back because it just shakes everything up a little bit. Marvel content is really sweet. It's just, comparatively is very sweet and easy watching. And then, The Boys comes on and you're like, oh my God, don't eat Tommy. Is it Timmy or Tommy? I don't remember.
Timothy.
Timothy.
Poor
that was
Timothy.
the hardest. I had to fast forward. I couldn't watch that part.
The Boys got a PETA award for that because they used a CGI octopus, and PETA was very happy with that scene. So.
God, that scene, that was hard to watch.
It was very hard to watch.
So hard to watch.
R.I.P. Timothy.
Yes,
Oh,
but
God.
great show.
Between this and Moon Knight, it has not been an easy spring, summer for aquatic life and TV shows.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, this show, I always watch this last. One, because it obviously comes out Fridays, but even before that, I used to watch some things in the morning so it would be fresh in my brain. No. I watch Boys as its own thing. It's the last thing I watch because I found especially after those first 3 episodes have enough in them, enough disturbing stuff in them. And now you watch the trailer, it's so funny because now you watch the trailer and you have context for certain moments, like when Homelander's on the cot. And you're like, that's so wrong. And it was weird anyway, but now it's really wrong. I will say Mother's Milk continues to be one of my favorite parts of this series.
Yeah, he's really good. And I love that they're giving his character more.
He's so he grounds everything to this it's someone, he's struggling with this. And even though he's really happy-go-lucky now that he's back with Butcher, he's still having these, he wants to be there for his daughter and all that stuff. He continues to be just one of my favorite parts. Also, the A-Train stuff continues to surprise me. How much?
That's the one part of the show I could do without. I think I like it, but
I could always
I know
do
it's going
without
to come back and maybe something.
Right.
Pager, but I just hate him as a character so much.
I do too, but he's so good at it though. Yeah. And I love this stuff with his brother as we continue to keep going down those. So I think he will end up having the biggest
especially
arc.
With the surprise death in the episode. I hate A-Train right now.
He's good. But that's what makes. But at least now I'm compelled in some way. Before I could have just cared less. I was just oh, he's cool, fine, but I didn't really care. Now he's actually making me.
And episode 4 has what I could only describe as a douchebag fight that is really, really hilarious to see 2 douchebags who can't fight trying to fight.
Yeah, it's really hard to talk about this show without going to spoilers, but we don't want to because it's just so fresh.
Right.
So,
but the douchebag fight I loved. All right, so that is The Boys, and we're going to stay on top of this. No pun. But moving right along, let's get into comics for this week.
All right, so first up, we are starting with the thing we've been leading towards, I feel like, for months now. Dark Crisis is here. Ba, ba, ba. Dark Crisis #1, written by Joshua Williamson. And as we learned coming in from Road to Dark Crisis.
This is DC's Dark Crisis.
Yes, this is DC's Dark Crisis.
Yeah.
As we learned kind of coming into this, the Justice League is gone. We're now trying to deal with this world that is without them. But what surprised me most, and by the way, spoilers are incoming for these books. So, because I am going to get into kind of to me, this book really picks up in the second half, because it was one thing to have this kind of, oh, the world is without a Justice League. What are we going to do? Having, I always want to call him Connor, having Jonathan go, I'm just going to make a new team. I thought it was really interesting, because then you get the Black Adam thing of like, okay, no, it's not, it's not that easy. You can't just slap a bunch of people together.
Yeah.
But the team itself is amazing, because it's like, it's such a random group, and like I love that he goes to some of the people you would assume, like Yara, right? He goes to her, he goes to some other people.
I got so excited. I was so lit down.
I know. She's like, nah, dude, I'm good. But like Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, they always want to be in it. And I just love that is we're seeing so many different ways of dealing with this void that is left by them. I just like the different approaches. Hal is very much being probably the most enjoyable version of Hal in a minute. He's very much just being like the pragmatic, like, look, they're probably not dead. We got to figure this out. I don't buy it, right? And he's like, I'm going to go figure stuff out. Then you have Black Adam. Like, it makes sense that like Hal wouldn't trust Black Adam. Like, not everyone's sold on his kind of whole rehabilitation thing. But then the second half kicks in and you're like, okay, if the League was gone, someone's going to step into that void and go, now's my chance. And to have it be Deathstroke makes all the sense in the world. And for him, it's just like, it goes from 1 to 10 in such a quick span. And like all the villains just attack Titan's Tower, because it makes all the sense in the world. You hit the next generation of heroes, you hit all these legacy heroes, we wipe them out, we're good. He's hated them anyway. He's hated the Titans forever.
That's it's the only thing, as soon as he went there, I was like, yeah, that's Deathstroke. Like, that's the first thing he would do.
It's just like a very logical
Parents are gone,
step.
he's going to go kill those
Yeah, he's going to take, and I just love that he has like a giant army outside. It's just, that part I loved how it ramped up that, and we're getting very logical steps for all the characters. Sometimes you get these events and people start making decisions that feel like they just wanted an interesting plot point. Here, so far, it's a very big event, right? And we can talk about the end, which then kind of, puts the thing out there. Okay, well, are they really dead?
Well, yeah, let's talk about that, because I'm glad they're doing that, because I think it would be just so naive and disingenuous for DC to really try to sell this as the Justice League is gone.
Yeah.
Gone. They're gone forever. Like, none of us would ever buy that. Like, right. Like, at this point, we know that's not real. So it's good that it's a part of the story.
Yeah.
Because I think it allows us to really lean into the real focus of the story, which is the next generation stepping up. Even if this older generation isn't gone, it's about, can the next generation step up and do the job, which is in all, whether it's anime or superhero media, like, or the combination of both, like My Hero Academia, is a major theme in kind of storytelling now. Is, the older generation's aging, and like, people like me and you who are becoming parents, and it's just like, can this newer generation, who we all think are crazy YouTube obsessed softies, like, can they actually step up and do something, is a major anxiety in the world. So like, it's an interesting story, and I like to see DC taking it on, because it does make things more relaxed and allow you to settle into the story, and it was then better for me to enjoy, like, Jonathan Kent thinking he can make his own Justice League, and seeing the hilarity, people just being like, him being like, dude, you're not Superman. Like, basically, just a backhand shade of, like, they didn't say it, but just being like, you had, like, I'm not following, like, you. And then the whole thing at the end about, like, Nightwing and who the true leader has to be.
Yeah. Like,
somebody's going to follow. You can't just be like, I'm also now Superman, and people are like not going for that. So yeah, I mean, what it is to earn that respect and have that title and thing, an examination of the Justice League, is interesting in and of itself.
Yeah.
So I don't need them to be a real death, and we know it's not. Plus, it's a better two-pronged story to see this big cosmic thing that's happening with Pariah, and then just on Earth with Deathstroke. And we like simplicity to our big, heady stories, and the Deathstroke stuff is blessedly simple, like you said. Like, I got a villain army. I just came out of a Lazarus pit. I'm gonna, F up and here we go.
I've always hated you, and now's my best shot to take you. None of your protectors are here, so it makes sense. Janelle, what'd you think?
Yeah, this was a beautifully done comic. Like, it was really beautiful to look at. I loved the bright colors. It was engaging. I didn't keep checking what page I was on, so they clearly had me. And a couple, you guys have said, you've said it, you've nailed it. But a couple of the comments people are saying is who do you think John and Nightwing are going to butt heads over who should lead?
No, we got that. Was it that Dark Prelude to Dark Crisis or
yeah,
Flashpoint
Road
to Dark Crisis? Yeah, that started off very purposefully with that story, and we discussed it here of how interesting it was to see Jonathan Kent and Dick Grayson paired up instead of Jonathan and Damian, which is how they usually go, because Dick Grayson is the eldest son of Batman, while Jonathan is the eldest son of Superman, and really those are the two successors to who would become Batman and Superman. And so I don't think so. I think they did that in Prelude to Dark Crisis to set up that this is going to be a true Batman-Superman foundation where instead of Bruce and Clark kind of being frenemies in that weird way, Dick Grayson and Jonathan Kent will support each other and be different, and Dick will be a major support system for him as Batman in helping to get him up to Superman level.
Yeah, and he's already done it.
Yeah.
He's already done it, right? Because he's already done it with Damian. Because he's been Batman.
Yeah.
And he was robbed of more time as Batman. But he's been Batman. Damian almost looks at him more like a father figure than he looks at Bruce because of that time. That's why they still have that relationship even after all the other stuff that's gone down. So it makes perfect sense that he would be the one to he has the respect in the community with the Titans, with the Bat family, with everyone outside of everyone knows who Nightwing is. Mm-hmm. And they trust him implicitly, and that's why. So I love that they did that as opposed to doing. I love Super Sons, by the way. So the pairing of Damian and John is always awesome.
Yeah.
But I just like this as far as if you're doing successors, it makes all the sense.
That's cool.
So I really adore this. Let's move on to our next book here. We're gonna move into Thor number 26.
Talk about some fun.
This is the second to last part of this story, this Banner War, and this was again, this book is so just ridiculous, and I absolutely love it. It fits everything with the characters. It's just big and bombastic. It looks gorgeous, but they always find a way to then hook you for that next one and just turn it a little bit, twist the thing a little bit differently. And the stuff here between Banner and Odin is great. That's actually been kind of my MVP of the last two issues. But here we get us set up for another big fight. And it's, again, they're just doing such a marvelous job of blending storytelling and actually telling you a story you're connecting to with these big, giant superhero fights. And they're doing such a good job of that. Yeah. I love this.
Banner of War is one of my favorite crossovers I've seen in years because it takes that classic Marvel character conflict, and Hulk vs. Thor is so not new. It's been in the comics, it's been in the cartoons, it's been in the MCU movies. We've had this, right? But this story makes it in. I forget who's writing Thor right now. Who's?
Oh wait. Oh, sorry. Thor. I thought you meant this.
Yeah.
Thor is. Oh my God.
I'm blanking.
Why am I blanking?
I'm blanking right now because all I can think of is Donny Cates as well. But anyway, so Thor, whoever's writing Thor right now, both Thor and Hulk are in this new kind of status quo space where Thor is, Odin's dead, but his spirit is in Mjolnir, and Thor is now king of Asgard, and Hulk is now, Banner has achieved this, Starship Hulk format, but also given rise to this Titan persona. So they're both in these interesting new status quo places, and I think the real genius of this crossover is that it highlights both characters, their new status quo, and makes both interesting, even more interesting, because it's not just them fighting. It's Starship. There's a bunch of stuff going on with Starship Hulk and with Thor as this fight's happening. And as we've said, week to week, it's some of the most fun. Yeah. It's just what's going on inside the Starship Hulk thing inside Banner's head, where now Odin invades and it's yo, what the hell is going on here? You got to get control of this thing. And because Hulk is taking, what's that?
Cates writes both.
Oh, Donny Cates is writing both.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it took me a minute. I was like,
that's why we're tripping out.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense. We've just been seeing his name so much. We just Yeah. But and while Thor is having literal daddy issues as Odin's trying to take control of him and control this fight, and now Odin and Banner have teamed up, and yeah, the outcome giving, it's just basically, I wrote this up, but just trading powers, right?
Yeah.
So Thor becomes a Hulk. Now Hulk has the powers of Thor, and now we get to have this fight again, but from the reverse direction, and it's just so much. It's what Donny Cates does best. These crazy, big, bombastic ideas, but still such control of the characters and the character dynamics that it feels kind of still intimate and interesting as a character arc. So, yeah, great stuff. And this is going to be an awesome trade for anybody who.
Oh yeah, this is going to be so fun.
Yeah.
Janelle, I know this has been one of your favorite. This has been one of your favorite books over the last few weeks.
I love it. It's just so fun, and I just love the perspective. I love everything, and I love the way that they're revealing things, and I just love them together. You guys say everything so perfectly that I never know what to add on, but they just do a great job. This has been such a fun run to watch and to read and to experience. And I like that. I like that in Marvel and kind of in my comic books lately. So, yeah, enjoyable. Really good.
Well, we only have one more issue, which is sad. But,
I know. That makes me bummed.
Yeah, but I agree with Kofi. I think this is going to be collect very well.
Oh, yeah.
We'll move into, I'm just going to tackle something really quick. Aquaman Andromeda, because I said I would. That's number one. The DC Black Label. This is Ram V. I have loved the Justice League Dark stuff that has popped up, and now we get to see his work on Aquaman. This is a very different issue, though, than what I was expecting, because there's a lot, this is very much a number one. So there's a lot of setup here, and there's a lot of establishing the world, because Aquaman's actually not in it all that much. I still really found the stuff interesting because it essentially is like them they're going to this place that's like very deep under the sea, that's kind of just this place that forgotten things go. And it's kind of got some Event Horizon vibes, because like there's this very special ship, and there's this crew assembled, and you're kind of meeting the crew. I'm saying not in execution. Not in execution, because I can't make that judgment
movie.
yet.
We don't speak about that movie.
I love that movie. But not in execution yet. But it has vibes. So some of that is really interesting. And then the Aquaman of it comes in. It's gorgeous. There are several parts here, especially towards the end, where it's gorgeous. I'm interested to see if we can really kind of get things moving in issue 2. So I am intrigued, and it is a beautiful book. But it's not like I wouldn't say it's like a must read. I'm kind of hoping for issue 2 to come out and make it like, oh yeah, that's the thing that hooks me. So let's move into our last book, the poll winner. Thank you everyone for voting as always. And Poison Ivy number 1. Poison Ivy getting her own series here, and this very much surprised me by how I honestly just kind of hadn't. This had kind of been off my radar a little bit, and G. Willow Wilson tackling Poison Ivy, and I was just like, oh, well, that's probably going to be good. But I didn't know much kind of going in. And it's surprised that I honestly, at parts, it almost felt like a Black Label book. It kind of had that vibe. I don't know. So it's just very interesting to see kind of where Poison Ivy is in this post, how her powers are, how she's adapting to things, and kind of her main mission. It's just very surprising. And it's just incredibly well written throughout. I was riveted. There's not a ton of action, but the stuff that happens is very intriguing. But it kind of feeds into why she's doing it. That's the most interesting part. And also the looming threat of like who is probably going to come and try to halt her from doing that. That stuff's really interesting. So I don't know. I thought this was really good. But what do you guys think?
I am still digging through this one, so I'm not going to step in and get it. I had to read a bunch of stuff this week, but I'm still digging through this one. But I like Poison Ivy, and so far it is a different take than I thought it was going to be. I wasn't enthused to at first to open this up, so I dragged my feet a little bit. But I'm kind of like, oh, maybe I should have.
Yeah, that's interesting. Janelle, what'd you think?
Yeah, I was very intrigued by this. It's beautiful, and I really am on her side. So I think she has a great point. I'm starting to kind of identify with her more as I learn more and more about how much we're abusing Mother Earth. And I'm just kind of like on Poison Ivy's side, and I love her destroying people the way that we destroy the world.
Jesus. All right, well, there you have it. Janelle, all about that eco-terrorism.
I would say that she is one of my favorite villains right now, or anti-heroes, whatever we're looking at the moment. Yeah.
All right.
I respect it. I respect it. Yeah, I love it.
She's cool.
But that's comics.
All right. That'll do it. Matt, we have a special announcement this week.
Yes. So this Sunday, if you couldn't get enough of us here, well, there's a chance that you could hang out with us a little bit. We're going to do a fun fan hangout on Zoom this Sunday at 8 p.m. CST. So I will go ahead and share the link and everything out after the show later today. So if you want to just come hang out, talk about all the things we talk about here, ask some questions, just chill and talk about movies, TVs, and comics, we're going to be there. Unfortunately, Janelle is not going to be able to join us this time, so you will have to settle for just me and Kofi. However, at some point in the future, we will totally make that happen.
You have to settle for the comic experts.
So that's right, fan hangout. Guys, for our Comic Book Nation community, I know some of you guys sometimes do this for our sister show, Phase Zero. But me and Matt have been dragging our feet on this for a good 4 seasons and 23 episodes. But we're going to donate some time Sunday. And so if you're one of our regulars, we would love to just kind of hang out with you guys on Zoom, talk, have you guys, because we're reading your comments all the time, but we obviously got to do the show and we can't always get back. But if you guys just want to come, yell at us, pick up any grievances you've been saving for 4 seasons, talk about the things we've been talking about this week and, share your perspective with us. We just want to meet you guys, hang out, talk, and kind of get this community a little tighter knit together since you guys are always here supporting us. So we thought we'd just donate some time and, shoot it with you guys. And that's what we plan to do this Sunday. Like Matt said, 8 p.m. Central Time, which will be 9 p.m. Eastern, or 6 p.m. Pacific Time. We're going to have a graphic and a reminder. We'll socialize all this. And, we'd love to see you guys there. Yeah, you can do my grind my gears. I see you in there, Damon Streets. You have to tell me everything about, I'll be taking notes. Personal improvement is, you guys, I fear no criticisms. Like I said, I just grew that situation. Use my Jedi, keep myself centered on the light side.
Oh, you brought everything full circle there.
Yeah, centered on the light side. That's how we do it. But that'll be this Sunday, so please come hang out, because if it's just me and Matt yelling at each other over Zoom, it'll be pretty much how this whole podcast started anyway.
That's a Tuesday.
Yeah, that's just how this whole thing started. But all right, we will see you guys hopefully Sunday, and if not, we'll see you next week. This is Comic Book Nation. Peace.
Bye, guys.